Look, I want you to picture your parents or grandparents when they were your age. Let's say it's 1985. Your dad works a middle-class job. Maybe he's a teacher, an electrician, a manager at some company. He's making about $25,000 a year. Your mum stays home with the kids. They own a 3-bedroom house in a decent neighborhood. They have 2 cars. They take a vacation every summer. They're saving for retirement. And at the end of the month, they're not stressed about money. Now fast forward to today. You and your partner both work full-time. Combined, you're making $110,000 a year. That's the inflation-adjusted equivalent of your dad's single $25,000 income. Except you're bringing in way more than that. You should be crushing it, right? You should feel rich compared to your parents. But you don't. You feel broke. You're living paycheck to paycheck. You can barely afford a house half the size in a worse neighborhood. You've got $40,000 in student debt your parents never had. You're terrified about childcare costs. And you're pretty sure you'll never retire. What the hell happened? My name is Max, and I spend way too much time thinking about why dual-income families with solid salaries feel more financially stressed than single-income families did decades ago. If you're someone who makes what should be good money, but somehow feels poorer than your parents were at your age, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because what I'm about to explain isn't about you being bad with money. It's not about too many lattes or avocado toast. The economic structure has fundamentally changed in ways that have quietly destroyed the middle class, and nobody's talking about it clearly. But more importantly, I'm going to show you how to navigate this new reality so you can actually build wealth despite the system working against you. Here's what most people don't realize. When families went from 1 income to 2 incomes, they didn't double their financial security. In many cases, they actually became more financially vulnerable. This sounds insane, right? How can having 2 incomes make you more vulnerable than having 1? This is called the 2-income trap, and it was identified by Elizabeth Warren, before she was a senator, in her 2003 book of the same name. She analyzed bankruptcy filings and found something shocking. Dual-income families with children were more likely to file for bankruptcy than single-income families were in the 1970s. 2 incomes, higher total household income, more likely to go bankrupt. Let me show you why this happens. The fixed cost explosion. In 1973, the median single-income family spent about 25% of their income on housing. Today, the median dual-income family spends about 33% of their income on housing. But wait, it gets worse. Here's the thing nobody tells you. When you have 2 incomes, you don't just add the second income to your existing lifestyle. You unconsciously restructure your entire life around needing both incomes. And this restructuring happens in specific, expensive ways. Let me break down the actual numbers. I'm going to compare a typical middle-class family in 1975 to one in 2025. 1975 family. 1 income, $45,000 in today's dollars. Housing, $11,250, 25% of income. 1 car, $3,600. Healthcare, $1,800, mostly covered by employer. Childcare, $0, one-parent home. Taxes, $6,750, 15%. Total fixed costs, $23,400. Discretionary income, $21,600, 48% of income. 2025 family. 2 incomes, $110,000 combined. Housing, $36,300, 33% of income. 2 cars, $14,400, need 2 for 2 jobs. Healthcare, $11,000, premiums, deductibles, copays. Childcare, $18,000, necessary with both parents working. Student loans, $6,000, debt the 1975 family didn't have. Taxes, $22,000, 20%. Total fixed costs, $107,700. Discretionary income, $2,300, 2% of income. Read that again. The 1975 family had 48% of their income left over after fixed costs. The 2025 family has 2%. The modern family is making almost 2.5 times as much in real dollars, and they have almost nothing left over. They're not broke because they're irresponsible. They're broke because the fixed costs of middle-class life have exploded. The 5 categories that destroyed the middle class. Let me break down exactly where this trap is happening. 1. Housing. This is the big one. Housing costs have increased by 89%, adjusted for inflation, since 1975. But it's not just that houses cost more. Here's what really happened. When families went from 1 income to 2 incomes, they didn't keep living in the same neighborhoods. They moved to better school districts because now they could afford it. Dual-income families bid against each other for houses in good school districts, driving prices up. So now you need 2 incomes to afford a house in a decent school district. But a family in 1975 could afford that same quality of neighborhood on 1 income. The second income didn't create wealth, it just became the minimum requirement to access what was previously accessible on 1 income. 2. Childcare. In 1975, childcare cost nothing for most families because 1 parent was home. Today, the average family spends $18,000 per year on childcare. In high-cost areas, it's $25,000 to $30,000. Now, you might be thinking, but Max, the second income pays for childcare, so it's a wash, right? Wrong. Here's the math. If the second earner makes $50,000, after taxes they're taking home about $37,500. Subtract $18,000 for childcare, and they're netting $19,500. Subtract the cost of the second car they need to get to work, $7,200 in payments, insurance, gas, maintenance, and they're down to $12,300. So that second income that's supposedly making the family wealthier is really only adding about $1,000 a month after the additional expenses it creates. And that's before you factor in work clothes, lunches, convenience food because both parents are exhausted, and all the other costs that come with 2 people working full-time. 3. Healthcare. Healthcare costs have increased by 125%, adjusted for inflation, since 1975. Back then, most employer health plans covered everything with minimal out-of-pocket costs. Today, even with employer insurance, the average family spends $11,000 per year on premiums, deductibles, and copays. And here's where it gets really interesting. Because both parents work, they can't afford for anyone to get seriously sick. If one parent has to take extended time off for a health issue, they might lose that income and the health insurance. The 1975 family had a built-in safety net. The at-home parent could provide care without losing income. The modern family has no buffer. 4. Transportation. The 1975 family needed one car. Dad drove to work, Mom handled errands and kid stuff. Today's dual-income family needs 2 cars because both parents work, often in different locations. That's double the car payments, double the insurance, double the gas, double the maintenance. The average cost of owning and operating a vehicle is about $7,200 per year. Times 2, that's $14,400. And that's if you're buying modest, reliable cars. Many dual-income families convince themselves they can afford nicer cars because they have 2 incomes, pushing this number even higher. 5. Education. Here's the trap nobody saw coming. College costs have increased by over 180% adjusted for inflation since 1975. In 1975, you could work a part-time summer job and pay your tuition. Today, the average student graduates with $30,000 in debt. So now, dual-income families are starting their financial lives $60,000 in the hole if both partners have student loans. The 1975 family started at 0. That's a massive structural disadvantage that has nothing to do with personal responsibility. But here's where it gets really insidious. The 1975 single-income family had financial flexibility that the modern dual-income family doesn't have. If the 1975 family hit a rough patch, recession, layoff, whatever, they had options. The at-home parent could get a job. They could move to a cheaper house. They could cut discretionary spending because almost half their income was discretionary. The modern dual-income family has no flex. Both parents already work. They're already in the cheapest house in a decent school district they could find. They have almost no discretionary spending to cut because 98% of their income goes to fixed costs. Look, if one parent loses their job, they can't afford the house. They can't afford childcare for the kids. They might lose their health insurance. They're immediately in crisis mode. And this is why Elizabeth Warren found that dual-income families were more likely to file for bankruptcy. They had no buffer, no flexibility, no margin for error. The 1975 family had a financial safety net built into their structure. The 2025 family is walking a tightrope with no net. The bidding war nobody talks about. Here's what really frustrates me about this. The shift to dual incomes was supposed to empower families and give them more choices. And, on an individual level, it did. Any single family that added a second income got wealthier compared to their previous situation. But here's the thing markets figured out. When everyone has 2 incomes, prices adjust. Specifically, prices adjust in the areas where families compete with each other. Housing in good school districts, private schools, college tuition. It's like everyone in a crowded theatre standing up to see better. The first person who stands gets a better view, but once everyone stands, you're all just standing for no benefit. Except now you can't sit down because if you do, you won't see anything. Dual incomes became the new standing position. You're not better off than your neighbours, you're just all standing instead of sitting. But you can't stop because if you go back to 1 income, you'll be priced out of the middle class entirely. Here's another layer to this that makes it worse. Where you live dramatically multiplies the 2 income trap. In lower cost of living areas, dual incomes can still provide real benefits. A household making $110,000 in a small city in the Midwest might still have significant discretionary income after fixed costs. But in high-cost urban and suburban areas, which is where most of the jobs are, the trap is brutal. In these areas, you need the dual income just to access basic middle-class life. And you're competing with other dual income families for the same limited supply of decent housing near decent schools. According to Zillow data, in major metro areas, a family needs to make $150,000 to $200,000 to comfortably afford a median-priced home. That's not a luxury home, that's a median home. And you're not getting that on one income in most professional careers. The psychological cost. Here's what most people don't realize. There's a massive psychological cost to the two-income trap that doesn't show up in the numbers. Both parents working full-time means constant stress and exhaustion, minimal time with kids, no time for household tasks, leading to expensive outsourcing, relationship strain from financial pressure and time scarcity, guilt about the trade-offs being made. The 1975 family might have had less total income, but they had more time, less stress, and more flexibility. Time is a resource too, and the modern dual-income family has essentially traded time and peace of mind for money that immediately gets consumed by structural costs. You're not just financially trapped, you're time-trapped, stress-trapped, and flexibility-trapped. How to escape the trap? Alright, so how do you actually deal with this? Because I can't change the economic structure, and neither can you. But you can make strategic choices that give you more freedom within this system. Strategy 1. The one-income stress test. Before making any major financial decision, house, cars, lifestyle, ask yourself, could we survive on one income if we had to? Not comfortably, not ideally, but could you survive? If the answer is no, you're too exposed. You need to restructure. This might mean buying less house than you can afford with two incomes, living in a less expensive area, driving older cars, being very conservative with fixed costs. The goal is to structure your life so that both incomes aren't required for survival. One income covers fixed costs, the second builds wealth and provides quality of life improvements. Strategy 2. The childcare math deep dive. This is critical. Sit down and actually calculate the net benefit of the second income after childcare, the second car, taxes, and work-related expenses. If the second income is only netting $15,000 to $20,000 per year after all expenses, you need to seriously consider whether that's worth it. Because you might discover that one parent working part-time or freelancing from home actually nets almost as much without the stress, childcare costs, and time sacrifice. I'm not saying everyone should become a single-income family. I'm saying actually do the math instead of assuming two incomes is automatically better. Strategy 3. The geographic arbitrage. Here's the thing. The two-income trap is much worse in high-cost areas. If you can move to a lower cost of living area, even a cheaper suburb of your current city, you can dramatically change the equation. A $400,000 house in a high-cost suburb versus a $250,000 house in a lower-cost area is a $150,000 difference. That's $750 less in monthly mortgage payments. That could be the difference between needing two incomes and having real financial flexibility. Yes, you might take a pay cut, but if your expenses drop more than your income, you're wealthier. Strategy 4. The deliberate downshift. Look, This is the most radical option, but hear me out. What if you intentionally chose a lower stress, lower cost lifestyle instead of maximizing household income? What if, instead of both partners climbing the career ladder in high-stress jobs, one took a more flexible, lower-paying position that provided time flexibility, or worked part-time, or did freelance work? You'd make less total income, but your fixed costs would drop. Less childcare, potentially one car, less convenience spending, maybe smaller house. And you'd gain time, flexibility, and reduced stress. This isn't for everyone, but for some families, deliberately downshifting from two full-time high-pressure careers to one full-time and one flexible arrangement actually increases quality of life and financial security. Strategy 5. The fixed cost audit. Every single year, you need to ruthlessly audit your fixed costs. These are the silent killers that trap you. Housing. Are you in the smallest house in the best school district, or the biggest house in a mediocre district? One of those is a smarter choice. Cars. Are you driving the minimum reliable transportation, or are you driving what successful people drive? Childcare. Have you explored all options? Nanny shares, au pairs, family members, different types of care? Healthcare. Are you on the most cost-effective plan for your situation? Subscriptions and memberships. What recurring costs have you accumulated? The goal is to minimize fixed costs, because every dollar of fixed costs is a dollar you need to earn every single month. High fixed costs equal high stress and low flexibility. Here's a strategy that almost nobody talks about: strategic career sequencing for couples. Instead of both partners trying to maximize their careers simultaneously, what if you sequence them? Years 1 to 10, Partner A focuses on career growth, while Partner B works flexibly or part-time, handles more home responsibilities. Years 11 to 20. Switch. Partner B now focuses on career growth, while Partner A shifts to more flexibility. This way, you avoid the period where both parents are in high-stress career-building mode while also managing young children. You reduce childcare costs during the expensive early years, and both partners eventually get career development opportunities. This requires long-term planning and trust, but it can massively reduce the two-income trap while still building household earning potential over time. Let me show you what this actually looks like in practice, with two families making the same total income. Family A. Maximizing income. Both partners work full-time, high-stress jobs. Combined income, $150,000. Housing, $45,000 per year, 30%. Childcare, $25,000 per year. Two car payments, $16,800 per year. Fixed costs total, $115,000. Discretionary/savings, $35,000, 23%. Stress level, extremely high. Time together, minimal. Family B, optimizing flexibility. One partner full-time, $90,000. One partner part-time/flexible, $30,000. Combined income, $120,000. Housing, $30,000 per year, more modest home. Childcare, $8,000 per year, part-time only. One car payment, one paid off, $9,600 per year. Fixed costs total, $70,000. Discretionary/savings, $50,000, 42%. Stress level, moderate. Time together, significantly more. Family B makes $30,000 less, but has $15,000 more discretionary income and dramatically better quality of life. That's the power of escaping the trap. Look, here's what nobody wants to admit. The promise of dual incomes making families wealthier was partially a lie. Not because dual incomes don't bring in more money, they do, but because the economic structure adjusted to capture that extra income through higher housing costs, required childcare, additional transportation, and all the other expenses that come with both parents working. You're not failing. The system changed underneath you. Your parents could build middle-class wealth on one income because the structure allowed it. That structure is gone. You need two incomes to access what they got with one, and you have less flexibility and more stress as a result. But here's the thing. Understanding the trap is the first step to escaping it. Once you see that you're competing in a bidding war for houses and schools where everyone stands up to see better, you can make different choices. You can opt out of parts of the competition. You can optimize for flexibility instead of maximum income. You can actually run the numbers instead of assuming more income automatically means better life. 5 years from now, you're going to be in one of two places. You're either going to still be trapped, stressed, broke despite good income, wondering why you can't get ahead, or you're going to have restructured your life to escape the trap. Lower fixed costs, more flexibility, actual savings, and breathing room. The difference is whether you make intentional choices now or just keep doing what everyone else does. If this video made you realize why you feel broke despite making good money, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want more content about the economic structures that quietly trap middle-class families. And drop a comment telling me whether you think the trade-off of two full-time incomes is worth it for your family. I'm genuinely curious about people's experiences with this. I'm Max, and I'm going to go calculate whether I'm actually trapped in this system myself. I'll see you in the next one.